everyone, Glitch Tenno yet again. This video is the start of a brand new series called Better Patch Notes. While I'm genuinely thrilled to see more work being done on the game, and very thankful the devs are upholding their promise to release more frequent patches and bug fixes, that doesn't excuse the, quite frankly, woeful and inexcusable lack of notation, if any at all, they give with their patches, sometimes not even updating the patch number to reflect a new patch, like the one before last. So while I know this will be a bit contentious, this series will aim to provide a more comprehensive list of patch notes than what are currently being provided. If they won't give the players the notes to know how to play the game, then let us, the players, write the notes for them. No? Before I get into the main topic at hand though, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to stay up to date on all the latest Evrima findings, Evrima quick guide updates, and now patch note, as well as all the funny crap I happen to run into along the way. Enjoy! This patch was released to improve admin functionality. I've not personally noticed any improvement, but it could be behind the scenes features. That said, I noticed that admins have since lost the ability to see hunger, thirst, sex of dinos, and group IDs if I remember that number correctly, which just makes most admin positions a little harder, as many servers have rules based around such things, or they'll spot players starving and spawn in as something for an easy chase and kill for carnivore players, which can no longer be so easily done. I can't help but wonder why the constant removal of telemetry would help the game in any way. Normally you would want as much as possible, like having in the logs what attacks are done, what damage is done, by whom, and to whom. When calls are made, commands are issued, to better spot how bugs and exploits are done, which in turn would make bug and exploit fixing faster and easier. The multiple physics engine plugins of Chaos Physics and Apex Destruction are still in the game. Those that don't know, and I will keep this brief, you don't want to mix and match different physics engines. They're not designed to work together, but rather designed to work with themselves and with specific game engines. When you mix and match them, you cause FPS and performance issues, memory leaks leading to purging of players from the servers, or the random disconnects you experience from servers, and chronic fatal errors. I still have hope this will be addressed and fixed soon. This ought not to be said, but don't hound the devs about this. I'm sure they have their reasons, and will hopefully take steps to upgrade to Chaos Destruction as soon as possible. Speaking of bugs and crashes, I've been updating the Evrima Quick Guides Bugs and Fixes page as much as possible as of late. Here are the ones still in the game as of the latest patch. At time of writing, I know of none to be fixed. Any bug that requires you to log out, you can just hard log by the way. Just press escape, click log out while in a safe place, as you are still attackable while your dino is standing in the open for 5 minutes. Then log back in. As long as the server pop is below the population cap, you'll get in, as your dino being spawned into the world effectively saves your slot on the server for 5 minutes, not allowing another player to take your place until it despawns. Be warned that your food, water, nutrients, and bleed timers will continue to tick normally while you are logged out. However, bleed damage, stamina regeneration, and growth are all paused while you are logged out. On to the bugs. The no chat, resetting keybinds, and resetting use manual alt attack bug. A bug with getting both the chat and the game settings keybinds has been brought to our attention. The devs are aware of it. What is happening is using chat causes it to immediately close, resets keybinds, disables chats, and resets the use manual alt attack checkbox, as far as we're aware at least. This seems to have appeared just before patch 115702, and at time of writing has no fix other than to restart the game. Once you restart the game, get back into the game, do not use chat, do not open chat, chat will not appear for you when other people type, and it is recommended to never press F6 while you are playing, which is the show hide chat toggle hotkey, at least for now, until such time that this bug is fixed. I will keep this bug updated on the Evrima Quick Guide as new information is presented. The long-standing safe log bug or lost dino bug is ever present. I just lost a stego the other day to this. Basically, what this is when you safe log, there is a non-zero chance that I believe a memory leak will cause you to lose your dino as the server purges your save data. It happens most often around a server restart. That said, anytime you safe log, it can cause this to happen. I know the common way around this is to just hard log or press escape and click log out, leaving your dino to stand for 5 minutes. It does seem anecdotally to prevent it. However, while working as an admin on Islander's server, I did note that whenever the server would restart, even players who had not been playing, when the server would restart, it would still cause the safe log bug to wipe players' dinos on occasion. So even if you haven't played for a while, it's still possible that when the server does a restart, it might still wipe your dino. The frequency of that happening as compared to safe logging or safe logging before a restart, it's far more rare than when you're just safe logging in normal play. So I can't guess an exact percentage or ratio, but it is far more rare for it to just wipe your dino while you're already logged out. But do note that it can happen. So if you've not played for a few days, log in and go, hey, where's my dino? That's what happened. The server restarted while you were away and wiped your dino in the process. You're not crazy. Nest compy issue. As an herbivore player, while you're nesting, if you have a nest that you dig up and you have to rest on the eggs to warm them up, when compies spawn in and come to the nest, if you kill the compies, the bodies land on the nest, you can no longer rest on the nest, the eggs will grow cold and go rotten. I have passed this issue on to QA. Right now, to my knowledge, this has not been fixed. Nesting bug. This one in my player group we find incredibly hilarious. When you spam mating calls at people, especially with Tenno, the funny thing is to go around as a female Tenno and spam the mating call. And when you do that, it's possible to mate with male dinos even while they're eating, resting, in the middle of attacking something, or mating with someone else. Earlier today, while we were sparring, the others as Omnis started mating, and it caused a weird thing where, if memory serves, they mated with multiple Omnis, it seemed. And the nest bugged out and just didn't work at all, but they could still build it. It was really weird. This bug is hilarious. This particular vomit bug was in the game at the start of 6.5 and patched out, but it has since made a return with 1158.01. I have noticed this in live play. I've noticed this in testing. It's where a Cerrado bites you, the vomit will go over your hunger, fill up your stomach to 100%, as you can see here, and it just stays at 100%. It doesn't go over, it goes up to 100 and just stays there, and you don't vomit. I don't know what causes this. I don't know how to fix this, but it's back. Speaking of vomit bugs, the failed vomit lock has made a return with 1158.01. It's somewhat rare and very inconsistent, but Stegosaurus is probably the most egregious offender of this, where you can swing through a vomit lock. Today, during testing to see how well a solo Cerrado can fight a Stego versus 2 Cerrado, 3 Cerrado, 4 Cerrado, it wasn't possible because they would come in for the vomit and I could just swing through it sometimes, being able to kill multiple of them, and the vomit puddle would just appear beneath me mid-swing animation. I did not get any recordings of this, unfortunately. All my hard drives are built with Microsoft bloatware and so many recordings of other things that I really need to process through and make videos out of. I'll just leave that aside. Anyway, I know there were a few things that could break the vomit lock in 1157.02, but they didn't appear to cause damage from what I was told. And in testing, whenever I broke the vomit lock, it wasn't while I was dealing damage, and everything I did to break the vomit lock didn't work while dealing damage. So it appeared to just be an animation bug. But this time around, it is definitely the full attack is breaking damage, not just an animation issue like it was last patch. So if people are saying, don't worry, it's only an animation bug, no, it is not. It is very much the full attack. Omni and Troodon pounce bug. Another bug that has come up with 1158.01, pounce bug. While we first noticed this, while rerunning the bleed test, which I'll go over here in a bit. When Turkish Delight would come in for a pounce on my Tenno, he would just stop. Don't know what causes this. We can't get it to replicate properly. He'd run in and just sometimes you stop instead of pounce. It's inconsistent, but it is a very common problem. I'd hazard a guess to say it's 50-50 if you actually pounce at some points. Other times it seems pounce is working just fine. It does seem like when bodies start to pile up is when the issues start to also get bad, but we'll need to do more testing to see just what exactly triggers this bug to get bad, or if it really is just RNG basically. Speaking of pounce bugs, Omni and Troodon pounce motorcycle bug. If I have the footage, I will put it up here. You get a pounce in, you'll see a little camera jitter on your side. You'll be able to immediately run away. Now, if this happens to you, don't worry, you got the damage and you got the bleed. Your pounce went through, but you are now stuck in the pounce animation server side. So every other client connected to the server sees you as basically infinitely pouncing and scooting around like you're on a motorcycle. But to you, you're running. So you can't jump, you can't, don't think you can do anything but bite. And you'll have to wait 5 to 10 seconds, and then you can pounce the ground. And once you pounce the ground, it resets your state, then you're back to normal. So it's somewhat of an exploit. We've tested this bug really thoroughly in the last patch, and we couldn't find a way to intentionally trigger it, because the ability to pounce onto something and immediately just run away, no 1 second tap, pounce, jump off, just jump in, out, well, get the damage, get the bleed, and immediately run off, is pretty powerful, especially now with the bleed overhaul. But the wait before you can pounce again makes it a little annoying to use, and how it's very hard to actually tell that you're stuck in this motorcycle bug. But it not so bad, because your bleed and damage does still go through. So just know, if you get stuck in it, you're not missing out on damage. It still goes through. And if you happen to pounce and then you just land next to them, just run. Just get out of there and wait out a couple seconds, try to pounce the ground and reset yourself, and then just get back into fighting. This is an admin-only bug. This is an older one that was introduced with 6.5. When entering spectate mode, the character's hurt boxes are left spawned into the world while everything else despawns. So any player that watches you as an admin despawn, they can run to where they saw you despawn and attack you and deal damage and bleed while you're in spectate mode. And then when you come out of spectate mode, it all hits you. I don't think it kills you anymore, but it did used to. Spectate mode bug number 2. This one was introduced with 1158.01. When entering spectate mode as Serato, if you're like chuffing around a body, your chuff continues where your hurt boxes are from the first spectate mode bug. You'll just keep playing that sound in the background. And then when you respawn in the world, wherever you respawn, you'll play the sound for a few loops, and then once the check actor happens around the Serato and it sees there's no body, so it stops the sound, the animation will continue. I believe it will still disallow you from doing any calls or sniffing or anything, so you'll have to bite to stop the animation. Something I was hoping that was fixed with this patch was the admin vision's show edible plants. Still doesn't work. Actually, I don't think that's ever worked. Input lockout from sniffing. This one I originally set it to work, or set it to fixed with the last patch. However, I have since moved it back into active bug status, I guess we can call it. Then when I was testing it, I was on a live server as a stego, and it appears to be fixed for stegos, as I couldn't replicate it at all. But when I went into the Evrima quick guides testing server and tried it on other dinos, the lockout persists. So it was moved back into active status. This one, if you sniff while moving or stand still as an herbivore, sniff for food, especially Tenno, it's really egregious there. Hold your sniff, find the food, and start moving before you let go of Q, or move while holding Q, then stop and sniff, then let go of Q, then move. You are limited to WASD and sprint. You can't attack, you can't do anything. The devs claimed at the start of 6.5, when this bug was first introduced, that deleting your config file would fix this. That's never helped. I've done it several times. Everyone I know who's experienced the bug has done it several times. So, time of writing, there's no solution other than to wait for the sniff to go away. Devs and QA have been aware of this since the release of 6.5. And last but not least, the 5 most common and well-known food bugs. Food bug number 1. When going to eat, you won't always be able to graze or drink or eat a meat chunk or grab an organ or something. As far as I know, that's because the server thinks you're holding onto something. Turn around like 180 degrees, spam G, turn back around, try again. If it doesn't work, turn around, spam G, turn back around, try again. And if it doesn't work, then log out and log back in. Remember, like I said at the beginning, logging out and logging back in, leaving your dino spawned in, find a safe spot, just hard log. As long as your dino spawned into the world for that 5 minutes, it saves your spot. If the server is at capacity, you won't be able to log in. That's just how the server menu works. Every 30 seconds, the server's trash collector collects trash and purges it. It's not uncommon for there to be chronic memory leaks for players and for them to get swept up and purged with it. So wait for a player to get purged and then just slip back in. You have 5 minutes. That's 10 times for a potential purge to happen. I have never not seen players get purged in that time. Whenever you see a server go up above capacity, like 101 or 105 out of 100 or 148 out of 140, that's because it purged clients and other clients were able to connect, and then the server is misrepresenting the numbers. To my knowledge, it's only a guess. I don't actually know how their netcode works. Not sure if anybody does. Anyway, but for all these bugs, just like any other bugs that require log out, log in, as soon as that player count drops below 139, you'll be able to come back in. The server won't allow, as far as I know, server will not allow anybody to actually connect to the server because your dino spawned in. If it sees 100 of 100 dinos spawned into the server, but say 137 clients connected of 140 possible clients, you click connect, join in, it'll say server full because there's too many dinos spawned on the map. I think I said 100 of 100 dinos, but then I said 140 clients because the server I usually play on has 140 slots. My bad. But point is, if the pop cap of dinos is maxed, but the amount of clients connected isn't, and you try to connect because it says that there's like 3 or 4 available slots, and then you connect and there's maximum number of dinos spawned in, it'll return server full error despite showing below the population cap. In my experience, that's how that worked based on observations. Anyway, moving on. Food bug number 2. Many people claim they've fallen victim to ESP hacks, especially carnivore players. And while I'm not saying there aren't hackers, there are a lot. ESP hacks aren't as common as you think because of this food bug. When you swallow an organ, you have an extremely high chance of it getting stuck on your face, and you can't see it. It is stuck server side, but on your client side, it was swallowed. And you could have multiple layers of organs stuck on your face. And this isn't carnivore exclusive either. As herbivore players, whenever you chunk a piece of plant and eat it, there is a non-zero chance it gets stuck to your face. And anything that can smell whatever it is you have, so an herbivore can smell everything. Meat chunks, corn meat, herbivore diets, we can see that moving. And like Stego has a 500 meter base scent range. So we see something move into a bush. Yeah, I'm gonna go check out that bush. I'm sniffing and I see, oh, there's torn meat. And as I'm walking, I can see it moving with the bush that I'm walking by. I'm going to go into that bush and just start swinging wildly. No, there's no way I could have known you're in there. But because you have a meat chunk stuck to your face, according to the server, I can smell you're in there. That's probably why people are claiming so many ESP hackers. Don't get me wrong, they're quite common, but not as common as you think because of this food bug. When I'm playing and just watching carnivore players, the majority of them will have this food stuck to their face. Like, just a hazard, I guess, I'd say 60 to 75% will have stuff stuck to their face, multiple organs and meat chunks at a time. It's far less common for herbivores, but it does still happen. So when you die to somebody who just happens to pinpoint you from way, way, way off in the distance, and you've been sitting in a bush for 30 minutes, that's how it's done, probably. Food bug number 3. I've only experienced this as an herbivore player, and I've never heard of this from carnivore players. Forgive me if this happens to carnivore players as well, but herbivore players, you might find that you smell diet, you run to the diet, get to the diet, you start the eating animation, and it immediately stops. Try again, stops. Turn around, try again, stops. Your friend asks, what are you doing? There's food right here. No, there's not. Yes, there is. No, there's not. Yes, there is. It's because the server is not informing your client that that particular bit of food is already eaten. You'll see fields of marigold, tons of it, because most of it is already eaten. or tons of ash bushes, or tons of potato, or tons of chanterelle mushrooms, etc., etc. Again, log out, log back in. Do apologize. For food bug number 2, just like the rest, log out, log back in. It fixes the problem for having food stuck to your face. I would recommend after you chunk organs from a body or chunk plants, every time you do it, log out, log back in. Every single time. I am not exaggerating. That's how bad this bug is. Anyway, food bug number 4. Another one that is pretty much exclusive to carnivore players. When grabbing organs or meat chunks, they can get stuck to your face and warp about the map. This is another one that can explain away a lot of ESP hacks, because again, it only appears to certain clients. You won't see it. It'll get stuck to your face, and the mesh will tear and get stuck to points on the map, and it'll start warping and spaghettifying and stretching along the map, and it will always point to where you're at. I have followed a meat chunk from Trash Pit all the way across Pocket River through Split Rock into the little jungle area and killed an Omni hiding in a cave because I followed the direction of the stretched meat. He claimed he died to a hacker, so I showed him a screenshot that no, you had meat stuck to your face. Again, every time you chunk an organ, every time you chunk meat, every time you do that, log out, log back in. Every single time. This is why it's so important that they get rid of Apex Destruction and replace it with Chaos Destruction. Or they get rid of Chaos and replace it with Apex and downgrade back to Unreal 4. You can't have both. You have to have one or the other. I digress. I'll get off that soapbox. This food bug is new to 1158.01. I've only seen it with carnivore players. I have had many a player tell me that it happens with herbivores as well. But as far as I can tell, it is far more common with carnivores. When you eat, you don't get nutrients. You gain food, but no nutrients. Log out, log back in. Yeah, I don't know what to say. All these food bugs. Log out, log back in. Yeah. And pardon the ranty nature of all the bugs. I just kind of went off script for all of them. Figured it'd be a bit easier than just reading what was on screen. Anyway, on to the next topic. Yeah. God, I'm having an existential crisis thinking about all these fucking bugs. Anyway, I mentioned testing with Turkish Delight, and I'd like to briefly go over that and the Bleed Overhaul Shadow Patch. For those that don't know, I use the term Shadow Patch to describe any time there's a seemingly unannounced patch or change in an announced patch, like the Bleed Overhaul, for example. While we only just now isolated the numbers for this a couple days ago, and on screen is the reverse engineered bleed formula I came up with using Turk's data for those so inclined to read it and know how it works, I noticed this change on patch 1157.02 6 Day or Vomit patch, since it really only changed the vomit mechanic, rather than giving Serato a unique mechanic. While playing Tenno, I was receiving far more bleed from Omnis than I should have been, which prompted us to get together and rerun the bleed tests. Generally speaking, everything is taking more bleed across the board, with Tenno receiving an overall nerf to its blood pool of around 18%, Carno around 17%, and Paki around 25%. These are tap pounces to bleed out a sprinting dino. Tenno is 9, down from 11, Carno is 10, down from 12, Paki is 3, down from 4. For an in-depth look into the full changes, I recommend Turkish Delight's video on the topic, linked down below. It's important to know that connections to servers seem a little more unstable as of late. Even on the EQG testing server with only 2 players and AI disabled and wiped, there was a wide degree of variability in overall bleed damage from tap pounces. 9 tap pounces on a sprinting Tenno without diet buffs left me once with 16 bleed, another time left me with around 5%, and yet other times it just killed me outright. However, after thinking about this hypothesis, it didn't sit well with me. The hardlog bleed exploit, which to my knowledge is still in the game, only works because bleed damage is isolated client-side and doesn't rely on a server connection, and likewise the bleed timer is isolated to the server, so server stability shouldn't affect the final bleed outcome at all. Another hypothesis I came up with, based on recent dev streams, is that this is an intentional change. While watching my bleed tick down during the tests, I noted that the amount was always variable. Sometimes I would see, from a single tap pounce, 0.04, 0.03, 0.02, 0.07, 0.05, 0.09, 0.1, 0.11, etc. If memory serves, Gandhi mentioned he wanted Stego to be able to swing infinitely so you cannot count swings. This may be a change towards bleed so you cannot count tap pounces, nor pounce duration to guarantee a kill, similar to how he felt counting swings was lacking skill-based gameplay. This is only a hypothesis, and I'm not privy to any special information that would suggest this is or isn't the intent beyond my intuition. While these bleed changes mean my Tenno playstyle has to be overhauled again, I'm not really sure yet how I feel about them as a whole. Some things like Stego needed to be taking more bleed damage, definitely, but now my Tenno is back to being forced on the bleed resist diet, which puts a massive spotlight on the stamina weaknesses it already had. Still the queen of 1v1, but those never happen in the game. Overall, I'm lukewarm. It has its pros and cons. Omnis needed love, but I feel that love would have been better served in damage rather than gimping the roster as a whole with bleed. Keep its bite the way it is, redo its alt bite as something it can do while running, maybe based on the galley kick animation since they already have that, and they could reuse it here as a quick jab with its sickle claw. Less bleed than a tap pounce, but 1.5x the damage and bleed of the bite, and usable in a sprint. Just locks you in a direction for a second or two, making your movement easier to predict and counterattack if you use it, so there's a trade-off with the bite versus kicking. Concerning the bugs, I know it seems like there were a lot. Most of these have been in the game for years. The safe lock bug, for example, I believe has been in the game since Evrima launched, if memory serves. I only started playing Evrima in February of 2022, so I don't know for sure. I just go based on what people told me on that one. The way the quick guide bugs and fixes page is now updated is when a new numbered patch comes out, I and the others will spend a few days testing on the testing server and playing on live servers to spot these bugs. A new section will be made, like with 115702 and 115801. If none are fixed, then it'll be marked as such, like what you see on screen here, and all the bugs that made it into the new patch will be moved up to the newest patch section at the top of the page, like so. If they are fixed, they'll be left in the patch section they were last seen in and labeled as fixed. If they come back, they'll be copied and re-added or remade to reflect the newer version of the bug if it's different from the older versions. That way, a sort of history can be kept on when bugs come and go over time, what patches brought what fixes, etc. As new bugs are added going forward, I'll put a date and the patch number next to them so their first appearance can be tracked as well. What are your thoughts on all these changes? What about the devs changing things without telling players? Thoughts on shadow patches in general? Let me know in the comments below. I'd really love to hear what people have to say on these matters. I've always been of the opinion that developers should be reasonably transparent about game mechanics. Most players don't need to know the math behind bleed mechanics, nor do they really want to. But a lot of players will want to know if it's semi-RNG based or if it's supposed to be consistent, and when there's changes to blood pools. They'd like to know the damage stats of the attacks they're doing. They'd like to have numbers for how much health things have, how long hunger and thirst last, etc. All things you don't really see from the devs if they even mention they've changed the dinos at all, like with the Packy Bonks to leg break Serato or head fracture of Tenno, which is why this series is a thing in the first place. Anyways, thank you for watching. Bit longer than my normal videos, I know, but I really hope you enjoyed it and learned a few things about the game. Anything else I find will get posted to either the Evrima Quick Guide or here as a video, short, or community post. And as always, until next time.